This week, two studies were released on DC fast chargers, which we'll get into in just a second. MotorTrend released an article covering the origin story of IONNA. And the Tesla Supercharger for Business saw 4 new stations added to the alternative fuels data center database as newly opened, as the Tesla Supercharger for Business program starts to pick up steam. Let's get into it. I'm here at my local IONNA station. You can see a row of chargers behind me, and there's a row of chargers in front of me. Pretty good turnout here on a Saturday morning at the Concord Rechargery. Likely going to be using this as a backdrop with some frequency because IONNA is definitely in the news frequently, and this is close to my house, so very convenient. As mentioned, the Tesla Supercharger for Business has opened 4 stations in the past week according to the Alternative Fuels Data Center database, 3 of which were with Francis Energy. A third one was with a company called BA Solutions in Mount Prospect, Illinois at a Kohl's. And interestingly, it looks as though all of them are using MagicDock according to the entries in the Alternative Fuels Data Center database. So 4 in a week for the Tesla Supercharger for Business program is definitely an impressive uptick, indicating that more and more companies who are adopting Tesla Supercharger for Business are pushing forward with installs. Specifically, Francis is definitely all in conversion, trying to shed the unreliable nomenclature that's been assigned to them and get some Tesla reliability behind them and under their belt, and try to see if they can't change the tides. They seem to be very enthusiastic in getting these stations open, mostly through the state of Oklahoma. And they also posted, Francis, I should say, not Tesla, Francis posted into LinkedIn an event that's coming up, or I should say just passed. I apologize. I thought it was coming up. It's actually just passed. Friday, February 27th, they had a ribbon cutting ceremony at the location in Jenks, Oklahoma for the new Tesla Supercharger for Business station that had just been redone. A place called Sweet Shots. I'm not sure what that business sells, but that's where it was located. It says this upgrade reflects the continued build out of reliable high-speed charging infrastructure in our home state and collaboration required to get projects like this across the finish line. So congratulations to Francis for another ribbon cutting. Next, speaking of ribbon cuttings, Revel, who has put a lot of pips in the San Francisco Bay Area, actually opened a station, and the picture shows not ChemPower, which is a little bit curious because the first station that went into San Francisco was ChemPower backed station with ChemPower hardware, and they had a big hoopla ribbon cutting ceremony for that, and it was very exciting that Revel was coming to the West Coast. Lots of news around that. This one looks to be an ABB A400 because it's 400 kilowatts, and according to the picture, that's what it looks like. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is. They're offering flat rate pricing of 49 cents per kilowatt hour, and this is at the 710 El Camino Real, South San Francisco, 8 stalls. Open 24/7, available to the public, so not just ride share. Revel is following through with their commitment in order to open stations in the San Francisco Bay Area. Speaking of rideshare and locations that are getting built out, Evolve New York has been working on a New York City LaGuardia Hub station for quite a while, and it's actually open now. So 12 stalls built by Electrify America for Business at 52 cents per kilowatt hour. Revel, as I said, is also built. Revel, who was in the previous mention, is also building a similar size station close by as well. So apparently the LaGuardia area is in dire need of charging locations. And I know that parking is difficult in that area, so just the sheer place to be able to park yourself as a rideshare driver until the next fare comes is definitely something that is going to be worthwhile. 52 cents per kilowatt hour in the New York City area is pretty inexpensive. This is The Evolve New York LaGuardia Hub is in lot GP1, so I'm assuming that's General Parking 1. And the plug share location is listed as well. Plenty of pictures there showing the station now open. Now, as I mentioned, there was a couple of studies that were released this past week. The first I'm going to cover is Perrin's analysis of the 2025 build-out of DC fast chargers in the nation of Canada. There is a YouTube video by the two founders of Perrin going over this study and the statistics that they released. It was very interesting, so go over to the Perrin YouTube channel if you would like to see that. The summary, though, is 19,000 DC fast charger ports were added to the nation of Canada in 2025, which is a very similar number to the United States percentage. So not 19,000, the United States added more DC fast charger ports, but if you look at the total number of ports starting at the year, the total number of ports at the end of the year, the uptick was right around 30%, which is very similar to the United States uptick, which I think was right around 33% or 35%, something like that. So they're seeing a very similar trend in uptick of DC fast charger ports in the nation of Canada. And it was very interesting when I was watching the Perrin video on YouTube. They were mentioning that one of the trends they're seeing are 24 kilowatt chargers. And you might think that's too slow, but what they're doing is they're pairing it to the dwell time of the location where they're putting them in. It was specifically mentioned hockey rinks are getting 24 kilowatt chargers. And if you think about it, if you're bringing your kids to hockey practice or a hockey game and you're connecting, it seems about the right amount of time in order to charge up your car using 24 kilowatt DC fast charger. And also, apparently, the lower speeds in the nation of Canada are tied to lower prices, something we in the United States have not quite figured out yet. For instance, Revel is bragging that they have a flat rate of 49 cents per kilowatt hour at the El Camino Real, South San Francisco location that just opened. But in the nation of Canada, they factor in the amount of power that's being delivered to the price. So if you are charging a Porsche Taycan at 360 kilowatts or something like that, that's going to be at a higher per kilowatt hour rate than as you start to come down on your curve. So it's actually dynamic in a charging session. It's not just tied to the overall speed of the charger, it's actually dynamic within the session itself, which makes the pricing tracking for Perrin a little bit tricky, but apparently they found a way of doing that. But very interesting. So you can get a full charge at 24 kilowatts at a hockey rink in Canada at a lower rate than if you would go to a DC fast charger that had a faster speed and get it quickly. So interesting. And they're saying there's also 50 kilowatt chargers that they are more aware of the use case dwell time of the station when they build their stations versus here in the United States, we tend to just go big and flat rate on kilowatt hour pricing. So it was very interesting to see the analysis that they did. They're also seeing a steady increase in average stall count per station in the nation of Canada, which was similarly observed here in the United States. So those two things, the factoring in of dwell time matching to the power levels of the station, and also the increase of stall count per station in the nation of Canada were noted in that report. And as I said, the headline is 19,000 plus DC fast charger ports added to the nation of Canada in 2025. The next study I want to go over is Escalent, I believe is how it's pronounced, did a study on DC fast charging in the United States, and their conclusion is that it don't really matter because no one's using it. Most people charge at home. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Captain Obvious. Of course, I don't know about anyone else, but I mostly charge at home, and the two times you wouldn't is if you don't have the ability to charge either at home or your workplace, or if you're on a road trip. Those are the two times where DC fast chargers come into play. And it also factors into people who are purchasing electric vehicles because they feel like they're doing this whole jump off a cliff thing, and they don't know if the whole infrastructure is going to be there to support them. And it's not until after you get your EV that you realize, hey, I'm charging at home, and this is really not consequential. In fact, the people just pulled in right next to me with a brand new Toyota BZ, a 2026 model, and new EV owners, and they came here to IONNA to, I guess, try it out, and they were able to use the Toyota app in order to initiate the charge and everything. But that's one of these things that the build out of DC fast chargers helps accelerate electric vehicle adoption, because it helps decrease the anxiety when you're making a EV purchase, what's known as buyer's remorse, because you know there's a large infrastructure there in order to help you charge should you need it. But what the study finds is that home charging is by and large where most people do their charging. So the DC fast charging is really not that consequential. Reliability, according to them, is improving for public charging. They say it's 74% of the people surveyed ranked reliability at a 4 or a 5 on a scale of 1 through 5, 5 being the most reliable. And only 7% ranked their DC fast charger reliability as a 1. So the improvement of reliability is something that they called out in the report. Additionally, this is something we've seen through 2025 and into 2026, which is real-time data, where should a station be broken, out of service, or congested, is being conveyed to drivers so they could audible to a different station should that be needed. And that is increasing charging satisfaction, because the real-time data telemetry is successfully being conveyed to the people who are actually en route to these chargers. Interestingly, for brand awareness, the Tesla Supercharger was number 1 and ChargePoint was number 2, which was expected, but EVgo was number 3, ahead of Electrify America. And that surprised me. Although EVgo has been around longer than Electrify America, I still would have thought that Electrify America would have been more brand aware than EVgo, but apparently not. And I'm thinking it's probably because EVgo has such a heavy presence in the nation, in the state of California, in the state of California, where EV adoption is the highest, and it's also the largest EV market. Next, EVgo added 9 stations to the Alternative Fuels Data Center database this past week, with most having double-digit stall count, which is unusual for them. They were kind of known for putting in 4 stalls per station, but this past week the numbers have definitely started to show an increase. They were saying in press releases they're going to start doing larger form factor stations, and we were seeing some indication of that, but this week was definitely very noticeable. They did, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stations with double-digit stall count, which for them is very unusual, but a total of 9 new stations added to the Alternative Fuels Data Center database, the largest of which is in Covina, California, at where is it? Covina Town Square, which is a shopping mall at a really picturesque location that someone was able to capture a drone shot for just at twilight, which is a really picturesque drone shot, a very nice looking picture. Next, as I mentioned, MotorTrend reporter Alyssa Priddle in February 27th posted an article where she covered, among other things, the origin story of IONNA, and apparently she gathered photos while at the West Point, Georgia Kia factory rechargery, because you can see the vending and the bathroom and the canopy that's very iconic in the pictures in the story. Some of the things interesting in the reporting that was done by Alyssa about the origin of IONNA, apparently there was a location that was an abandoned Honda property where they were congregating, and they were trying to form a network similar to what the Europeans have with Ionity. They came up with the code name IONNA, which was an internal code name, and it stood for ion as in electric, and NA for North America, and that name just stuck and became the name of the network after it became public. So that's where the name comes from, if anyone is curious. And we kind of assumed that was the case, but this is the first confirmation we have. Ion and NA, so Ion on Ion North America. Began with those 7 automakers, which were Kia, Hyundai, GM, Stellantis, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Honda, and then Toyota joined later, becoming the 8th member. The target, according to the report, is still 30,000 bays by 2030. Plans call for the eventual expanding into Canada, but not this year, which is not in 2026. According to quotes, IONNA wants to scale up the US and prove out its business model before it goes international to Canada. So unfortunately, we won't see Canada stations built this year. Most stations are in California so far, and there are no plans to hit every state either. For instance, Alaska and Hawaii are not being considered currently. Others, like Montana, are not deemed priority in these initial stages as well. The state of Michigan is going to join in the second phase of development in late 2026. So for the people in the state of Michigan, you could look for IONNA stations starting the second half of this year. They also mentioned no app in the article, and they're relying instead on the automakers who are their partners to provide apps for their drivers. For instance, the people who just bought the Toyota BZ over there, I was helping them plug in. They just used the Toyota app in order to initiate the charging session, and they just pulled it up. They had it already installed. They're, I think, coming directly fresh from the dealership. They still have temporary plates, and so they had the app set up, and then they just started the session that way. And so that's the apparently the official plan that IONNA is going to be using going forward. Speaking of IONNA, they opened 2 rechargeries this past week, one in Hollywood, Florida at Awawa, and Lakesburg, California at a location that's a little bit curious to me. I can't quite tell, but it kind of looks like it's next to an apartment. And so I can't really tell if that station location was selected hastily or something, but maybe I'm not understanding the bigger picture of why they chose this location. They also opened, this was kind of curious to me as well, they opened an IONNA store. And if you're looking for some merch with IONNA branding on it, they got you covered. The word is they'll be updating offerings in the IONNA store almost weekly, with t-shirts, hoodies, and even a button down or 2 that I noticed. So be sure to keep an eye out if you're into merch for new offerings coming from the IONNA store. And they actually, on their debut, have a very wide selection. I was going through there and checking it out. They don't have this hat. This is the hat that I got during the event that was the 2-year birthday event. Next, periodically, smaller CPOs add batches of additions into the Alternative Fuels data center database, and this week we have 2. The first of which is the CPO Florida Power and Light, more commonly known as FP&L or FPL, added 18 stations to the Alternative Fuels data center database, all with open dates of February 20th. Now, obviously, those stations didn't open on February 20th. They opened in the months previous, but this is just kind of how FP&L adds entries. They do them in batches once every 4 or 5 months, something like that, and we've got these batches added. So a good build-out being shown by FP&L. Additionally, Apple Green, which operates toll plaza service centers, added 25 stations to the alternative fuels data center database, including the very nice looking Biden Center that has Alpitronic hyperchargers with 12 stalls available as well, and other stations that are peppered across service plazas in the upper East Coast. Lastly, Pilot opened their 6-stall canopy station at the Flying J in Lodi, California, off Interstate 5, south of Sacramento, where you'll be greeted with a Denny's open 24/7, 365 that has my favorite, the hot apple crisp. If you've never had it, you got to try it. They put a very generous scoop of vanilla ice cream on top of a hot apple dessert, and it's moderately priced. It's only like $6 or something like that. And you can enjoy that while your car charges outside, as well as a full travel center. Thanks for watching.